are my roots. I grew up here. My wife's a Ganesha High School graduate. We're incredibly proud to be from this city. And ultimately graduated from UC Riverside and taught for 2 years. And now for the last 15 years, I've been working at a program called Bright Prospect, which is based in Pomona. We started with 12 students, and we now have over 2,200 students. And these are kids, 1,100 of them are in college. And they're going to places that I know you've heard of: Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Stanford, Mount SAC, Cal Poly, UCLA. And it's a program that has really made a difference in the lives of a lot of young people. And I'm also proud to say that 3 years ago, we expanded the program to include Diamond Ranch. Because the assumption is, well, Diamond Ranch doesn't need us. They have all the resources. They have all the counselors. They don't need a program like ours. But we began to better understand Diamond Ranch and the needs there. And in fact, we came there 3 years ago, and I'm very proud to say that this year we'll have our very first graduating class from Diamond Ranch, which will be about 50 students. There, you guys do that again. Do that again. There you go. So, if you don't know this, I've been walking and knocking on a lot of doors throughout the city. Every morning and every afternoon, I'm just really out listening to people. And let me tell you what I hear, because then I think you can better understand what are the 3 areas that I really want to focus in on in what I would call that first term of my mayorship. And it depends on what part of the community you're talking to. But in general, people are concerned about, can we go there as a family? Do we feel safe? I hear that. More and more on Phillips Ranch, I'm hearing more about the 71 and the concerns around the 71, whether it's health-related issues, but particularly the accidents that happen there and the traffic. When I go to other parts of Pomona in particular, and less here, but to some degree, homelessness is a very serious issue. Homelessness at the City Hall, in businesses. Where I live in Lincoln Park, homeless people congregating in our alleyways, at our businesses, very, very serious problem. And just the general cleanliness in the city is that people are bringing up about blighted businesses, about blighted properties, about the streets not being clean. And so what I've tried to do is to assess all that and assimilate all that information and really try to address the issues that are important to you. And the 3 areas that I really want to focus in on, I want to increase civic and community engagement. There is no way we're going to be able to change the situation in Pomona without your engagement, without your help. I'll give you a very concrete example of something we can do. When I hear people talk about the general cleanliness of the city, I've had the fortune of working with high schools. And I know at the high schools, the students are required, in some cases, to do community service. Why can't we get our kids out in the community on an ongoing basis to help clean up our community? Ideally, you'd want your city to be doing that. But as all of you know, we face some revenue pressures, and I won't talk about what all those pressures are, but we need to be really creative and thoughtful of how we utilize our resources. So with the young people, imagine rather than them saying, oh, I live in a ghetto community. No, I don't live in a ghetto community. I'm responsible for this community. I'm a part of the positive change in this community. I'm helping to clean up my community. As many of you know, like for my wife and I, our property is our life savings. That's our future. I mean, when we retire, it's going to be, if we don't take care of this city, our property value is going to go down. But more importantly, it's, what kind of community do we want our kids growing up in? I want to increase that civic and community engagement. In the first 100 days that I put out, if you go to my website, you'll see it. I want to make sure that there's transparency, that I'm accessible to you. And I'm not just expecting you to show up to a city council meeting for your 3 minutes, or having to wait for key decisions to be made at 11 o'clock at night, right? But that I'm actually out talking to you. And so in my first 100 days, I'm going to go out and I'm going to work with each city council member and come out and share exactly with you how we're spending our money. You need to know this. You need to know how we're spending our money and the challenges we face and what are the things that we need to do to increase revenue. The other way I want you to be civically engaged is in the short term, one of the fastest ways we're going to increase revenue in this city is by shopping Pomona. And I know that's not always an easy thing to do because you don't always have the amenities that you'd like. Like, we don't have a Kohl's, to my knowledge, so we have to go outside the city to go to Kohl's. There's restaurants that we'd like to go to, but we don't go to them because we want to, and some of it has to do with safety, right? Do I feel safe going to that store? But in order for us to pay for the kinds of things that we want, we have to increase revenue. And one of the fastest ways to do that is through sales tax revenue. So I'm going to push that. And I've been pushing that at every meet and greet that I've gone to. And Target's numbers have gone up. I'm kidding. But I have people telling me that, Tim, you're at least getting me to think. And that's a good thing. Because then people begin to take, what's that?
Call it Target.
Target. Good. I'm learning new things on the campaign. Right? Second thing, public safety. I don't know if you're aware of this, but we're down close to 50 officers. It's a huge problem. Safety in terms of our parks. In the first term, I'm going to work closely with Chief Picaro, as long as he's there, and whoever's the chief, to make sure that we have the policing that we need to be able to carry out the calls when you guys call and your car's broken into and you don't hear from them for 5 hours. Well, I've talked to the chief about that, and he says, you know what, Tim? I need more help. And whose responsibility is that? It's the leadership of the city to help our police officers so that they can carry out the work that at the end of the day you can go, you know what, I know I can count on my police. And the policing that Chief and I talked about is called community policing. I want you to know who your police officer is. I want you to be able to text that police officer or call that police officer so that rather than that officer working alone on their own, that they're working in a community. And that you know your officer is Dave or Wanda or whoever, right? We're not there, but we need to get there. As you all know, Pomona faces an image problem. I went to Pomona High School in the 80s, and we played in the baseline league. That was Glendora, Claremont, Upland, Altaloma. And there were always two things that they thought they were going to catch or happen when they went to Pomona High School. One, and some of you who came out of that time period will understand, was a venereal disease. Okay? Right? So if you just went to Pomona High, you automatically got that somehow, right? Of course, I think it always just made them feel better because they had their own problems. I know Claremont High School's had problems too, right? And the second one is you're going to get stabbed. But that wasn't my high school. There was nothing like that. So the narrative that the mayor shares, that when the mayor goes out and represents you, and how he carries himself or how she carries herself, it speaks to our image. I think there's so many beautiful things going on in this city, and our mayor has to be the champion that carries out that message, whether it's locally or whether it's regionally. Think about how important that is. What the mayor says, how he treats people, how when he goes into businesses, what the expectation is, right? It's so, so important. So we need to improve our public safety. And then lastly, in order to pay for this, we have to have an economic vision. I've spoken to city council people. I've spoken to business leaders. Pomona doesn't know what its economic engine is. In the old days, it was agriculture. In post-World War II America, it was, Tim, do you remember that time? Right, I'm kidding, Tim, I'm kidding. You always rib me, so I got to give him a hard time sometimes, right? Tell us about the orange piece. Right? But the second was General Dynamics, right? How many jobs were created and all the peripheral jobs that were created out of General Dynamics. We don't know what it is today. There's two areas that I think, and there's a process that the city has to go through where we begin working towards the goal of identifying what it is, because that's ultimately in the long run going to help generate the revenues that we need to rebuild our city. The first one is we have three major medical, we have a health industry here in Pomona. We have Costa Catalina Hospital, Pomona Valley Hospital, and we have a university. And we have not done enough around building what I would call a healthcare corridor, a wellness corridor, a life sciences corridor. We have Cal Poly Pomona, a world-class university, a strong engineering program. We have Harvey Mudd College, the premier engineering program in the country, second to none. I know Caltech has something to say about that, Tom, and I know MIT probably has something to say about that. Right in our backyard. Why can't we set up a zone, a promise zone, where we can begin to develop that industry? The second is entertainment. Downtown Pomona. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to say, I don't want to go down to downtown Pomona because it's not safe. Well, there's some really great things going on there. And I think one of the important things to remember about a downtown, historically, it's a place where people come together from all walks of life. And just the way Pomona was constructed and built, we have ranges of socioeconomic diversity. We have people who have multiple people living in a house. We have people who are living up on the ranch, up in the hills, and they have a beautiful home, and everything in between. To bridge that diversity, I as a mayor have to be that bridge. Philip Ranch is important to me, but all of Pomona is important to me. And the stronger that the rest of Pomona is the stronger that Philip Ranch is. If we uplift our low-income families in South Pomona and our schools improve, well, guess what? At the end of the day, that helps your property value. So the downtown Pomona area as an entertainment, cultural center. And I'll just say one last thing, is the corridor between Cal Poly Pomona and the 57 freeway. There are thousands of students who are going there every single day. And if they shopped Pomona, if we've had the types of services that are really important to this community, think about the dollars that will be coming back into the community and how important that is. I could talk about a fourth one, which is the environment, but I won't. That's important to me, and ultimately get into a zero waste community. But probably the thing that I get to talk about is leadership, and the kind of leadership you should expect. I don't know or remember the last time the incumbent had a community meeting where he talked about the direction of our city that wasn't in an election year.
Exactly.
I am committed to being out in front of you and letting you know exactly where we're at and where we're going and how I need your help. And I'm going to operate with integrity. I'm going to operate with honesty, transparency, accountability. I'm rooted in this idea of a concept called the public servant, that I'm not here to say, what can you give me, but how can I serve you? And I really believe that's been absent in our city for far too long. It's been absent in our city for far too long. And my job is, there's some dysfunctionality that happens on the city council. And the mayor sets the tone. The mayor drives down the culture. And my job is to bring people together, is to bring the council, who sometimes just think that they may see themselves as just in a district. But my job is to make sure that I bring that vision together, working with them, so that when we decide something, we think about what's in the long-term best interest of our city. And so I need to be able to work with that council. And it's those values that I'm going to be bringing to the mayorship. But I can't do this without you. There's an election coming up in 7 weeks? 54 days?
54.
The ranch historically, is you got to win the ranch, right?
Yep.
And it's a big area because I've walked it. And yeah, it's a tough area to walk.
It's got all those hills.
But if we generalize this, and all of you are talking to your neighbors, you're talking to your friends. Now, of course, that's if you decide that I'm the right person. But if you're doing that, that's how we're going to win. That's how we're going to win the ranch. And I want to tell you, we have people walking all over the city. And we'd like to have signs all over the city, but we only have so many people walking. But we're going to need you to win. And we're going to need you to be able to share the story, to share with people why you want to see change. And I realize sometimes people want change just simply because they don't like the other guy. I get that. But it's a one-on-one race. And we have an opportunity really to bring a different kind of leadership to Pomona. And I hope you, at the end of the day, decide, you know what, I want to work with Tim Sandoval. Vote for me. Work with me. And this is not something I'm just going to do on a Thursday evening during election year, but this is a foundational part of my mayorship that I want to bring to all parts of Pomona. Thank you guys. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Tim.